Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all enjoying the conference so far. I know these sessions have been really incredible to be a part of and to watch and observe and listen and learn. So I hope you're all enjoying it so far. Really excited for our next lunchtime session today with Karen. My name is Emma Jane and my pronouns are she and her. I work for the HSJCC Secretariat at CMHA Ontario and I will be your facilitator. We would love to see some of you. I know about Karen. I always love to see some faces. So if you're comfortable, feel free to come on, but if you're eating lunch, we totally get it. I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping pieces before we pass it over to Karen to get us started. So welcome to the lunch session titled, What Do We Keep Missing About Addiction? Before we get started, as mentioned, I'm just going to review some of these housekeeping pieces. So I would first like to draw your attention to the bottom screen. You can utilize some reactions that are down there. We don't currently have a Q&A down there, so please, if you do have questions, throw them in the chat. I'll be monitoring and make sure we don't miss them. And then when the time comes for questions, please also feel free to raise your hand and come to the mic and ask Karen yourself. During the presentation, please ensure that your microphone is on mute. This just allows for less distraction during the presentation. Please note that we will also be recording this session to upload to the conference website for future viewing by those who have registered for the conference. You'll be able to access this platform for 90 days following the conference. I would like to remind everyone that we have also closed captioning for all sessions, so please click on the CC icon below the video window on your screen to access this function. We kindly ask that you complete the evaluation for this session by clicking on the session in the agenda on the virtual platform. There will be a survey button at the bottom of the session next to the join button, and your feedback is greatly appreciated and will be used to inform future events, such as this conference. We would also like to respectfully ask all of those attending today's session to engage with each other thoughtfully and always consider the impact of your words and interactions on others. As a facilitator, I will not be tolerating any abusive or inappropriate behavior or hate speech, and we will ensure that anyone who engages in such behavior is removed from the session. If you have been disturbed or affected by such an event, please do what you need to do for you. Take a break, step outside, practice deep breathing, and/or reach out to someone you trust. If you are in crisis and require immediate support, please click on the FAQ icon on the conference homepage to access contact information for Connex Ontario. If you would like to report an incident, contact the event manager, Sherry Sim, by either clicking on assistance button on the top right menu bar on your screen, or you can send an email or a text to Sherry. I would now like to introduce our presenter for this session, Karen James. Karen is an addictions and trauma counselor and a person with lived experience. Over to you, Karen.
Thank you. So I'm just going to start with a presentation, which is a video that will run while I'm speaking. So I'm going to put the video up now. I'll share it with you. And it's going to be a series of images that'll run with a bit of music behind it. So the reason I'm showing these pictures that you see on the screen is I'm trying to show what we often don't see enough of or clearly enough of, which is the effect of addiction. And these are all drawings I've done, by the way, over time. And I wanted to show because I think we often miss the totality of how addiction affects so much more than just the person that's addicted. And so I wanted to depict here not only the addicted person themselves, which you'll see in some of the imagery, but also the other people that are also impacted by addiction. And so as you'll see a number of children in some of these images. And you'll also see people who are parents of addicted people as well, and perhaps other family members. People who are addicted. And I do this because in all of the conferences I've attended, I've often not seen a lot of specifically children, which I think is a mistake that we make because children are extremely impacted by addiction. Impacted in ways that often go on to bring on the next generation of addicted people. And we can't afford to not show the children or talk about the children And I'm a big advocate for children specifically, and I'll tell you why. Because as I was introduced, I am a child of an addicted family. And I'm also a person that became addicted as a result of that. And I'm also a person that recovered from addiction. Then I was a person that an addiction counselor. And then I was a person that went on to live most of my life, probably all of my life, in a neighborhood that was a highly addicted neighborhood. And all of that's related to itself, to each other. And I'll explain that to you a little bit because I think it's important to understand the context. So I grew up with an addicted mother and father. And my father left as a criminal because he was running from the law, leaving my mother to raise 3 children, mine being the youngest, and literally the most unwanted child because she couldn't afford to manage 3 children and no father at the time that this happened. And she was alcoholic, and she was bitter and angry. She saw me as the problem, and in her alcoholism, she was very cruel, and she took away my childhood. And I love my mother. Really, it's the interesting part of these problems. You still love this person immensely, and I love her to this day. But she destroyed me in my childhood in a very hard and difficult way. And when I look at children, you have to understand these children live this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year after year after year. It's not moments that it happens. It's every single day that the child lives with it. And I don't think, again, that we understand the amount of pain that children live with. It's not occasional pain. It's pain on a daily basis, an hourly basis. And it can destroy the fabric of the person over time. My mother chose to make me her drinking partner at the age of 15, and I became alcoholic. And when you're filled with so much pain, and here's the origin of addiction, and you try something and it gives some relief to that pain, that's the trauma. You grab onto that as relief because for a moment feels some relief. And there's the addiction. You're in the trap. And before you know it, you think that's the answer. And here's the painful part. When it becomes not the answer anymore and it doesn't take the pain away, you're stuck in the trap and you can't escape. And there's a perfect image of you can't escape because the drug no longer works. Pain won't ever go away. And now you're addicted to something you can't let go of, and it's not the solution anymore. And now it's just a nightmare. And then you start playing the game with the drug. And the game is Russian roulette. And I'll tell you, nobody will tell you this except another addict, that you're really just playing a game. And you kind of hope that maybe one day the game will kill you. And also you're playing around. And you're trying a bunch of different drugs at the same time, and you're not sure if you're going to die. And sometimes you hope you will. And so when you see a whole bunch of people using fentanyl, a very dangerous drug, they know what they're doing. And when they find out that the dealer down the street is selling a drug that will kill you, they're going to go to the dealer down the street that has the drug that will kill you. Because Russian roulette's the game. They're just spinning that barrel hoping that maybe one day that bullet will be there and they're gone. If you don't believe that, or you don't understand that, you don't understand addiction. I'm telling you this from a person who was addicted. You think it's because the guy's selling toxic drugs. You think that if you just give him a clean supply, that's the answer. But you don't understand that the origin of the basic addiction is, I don't want to live anymore. Because this hasn't solved my pain problem. This hasn't solved the origin of why I'm using these drugs in the first place. Because the pain inside me just won't go away. This drug is not the answer. These drugs aren't the answer. They don't take that pain away. And they never did for me. And I'll tell you how I ended up in recovery. I came to a decision in my life. I said, this is it. I either need to take my life deliberately or I need to find a way to live. And either I was in a house full of guns, I'll tell you, and very dangerous guns. So I said, either I take the gun and pull the trigger or I go find out if there's a way to survive. I went into treatment. And I had no idea what treatment was. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know what sober, clean was like. I had no idea. That world was unknown to me. I didn't know anybody that didn't use drugs or drink. I didn't know how to be in that world. So that was a whole new world for me. But and I didn't know what to expect. But my idea was this: either I give it my 100% all and see if I can survive, or I just get the gun and shoot myself, because those are the two options I had. That's all I had left in my life. So I said, if I'm going to try this, I better give it my all, because the other options is I have to die because I can't live. And I gave it 100%. Every damn thing I did, all the things I didn't want to do. And I hated the world I just entered into because I didn't understand it with a darn. And it took 2 years. I stayed in a recovery house and felt like, what the hell? I'm staying in a place that's telling me what to do. I feel like I'm a child again. And it wasn't, because I didn't know anything. And I was a child again because I'd never been one. And suddenly I was not using anything, and everything came back. All of the horrors from the past came back. And I felt like I was in hell. And I ended up mentally ill because I had a mental illness I was medicating for years and didn't know I had it. I had bipolar disorder. I was a mess. A year and a half, I was crazier great than I was when I was stoned. And I thought, oh my God, I'm nuts now. And I had to fix that. And it took 17 years to silence a mental disorder that told me to kill myself each and every day. And it took a lot to fix it. But it's the best thing I did for myself. And that's just one person's experience. There's tons of experiences where people have to deal with stuff and they don't know how to fix it. But I'm telling you, look at these images. They're real. These are what people live through. The children's faces are real. Like, it's a horrible lifespan. This is a child that could be me at that age that had nothing going for me. Finding my mother unconscious on the floor when I was 11, I thought she was dead. And I had no way. We didn't have 911 back there. I thought my mother was dead. There was no one I could talk to. Being told by my mother that when you're 19, I'm going to die when I'm 5. Every single year, I'm going to die when you're 19. And when a day and a month before my 19th birthday, my mother died. Things that you don't even want to imagine happening to you. And you have no way to deal with it because you're a child in an alcoholic home where insanity takes place on a regular basis and you have no one to help you navigate it. And you can't talk to anyone because you've been told you can't talk to anyone. You can't even see if this world is the same next across the street. You think everybody must live like this with no answers. It's not okay that this is going on. Yet what are we doing? So who's impacted? It's not just the addicted person. It's the children. It's the parents of that addicted person, if that's their child that's out there using. It's the family members. It's the community. I live in an area that's very addictive. I'm in Vanier, in Ottawa, and I'm in the part of Vanier that has got addicted people all around me. I have a crack house next to me. Well, let me explain why, because I think it's important to know it. I was an addiction counselor in the field. That's what I went into. Well, I got stigmatized by addiction as well as an addiction counselor because I was considered somebody that wasn't very educated because that's how they viewed us at the time. So I never made money above $19 an hour for the majority of my career. I'm quite educated, by the way, today. I have and I learned along the way. I took courses all the time. I went to university, all this stuff. It didn't matter. I never made above $19 an hour. So I lived in the place that I lived because it was cheaper. It was cheaper for me to live where the addicted people live. And today, I still live there. Even though I'm a registered psychotherapist today, I still live in this area. I can't move out of it. I'm in semi-retirement. And also, it hung with you. And so I see what's around me in this neighborhood that people have to live with. I was sitting outside one day, just about a month ago, and I heard my neighbor in that addicted house say, "Well, I just about beat that," and he said bitch, to death. He peed all over the place. And there was nothing I could do about it because he saw me. So if I were to try and phone the police to get help for the woman, I don't know where she was, maybe in one of that apartment building, half dead, he would come after me and beat me. And not only that, he threatened my neighbor, these guys, and they smashed the windshield. keyed her car, cut all the tires, because she asked them not to send her dog over to our place to defecate on our property. Just saying something to them to get you beaten up. And that's how we live in my neighborhood. But it doesn't matter. You know, if you call the police, I asked the business owners in the neighborhood how they do. It doesn't matter. They can come in and steal from them, and they can call the police won't do nothing. So where are we? Where are we going? Where this kind of stuff is happening, and we don't hold anyone accountable anymore. So we went from one area of looking at addiction, like when I came in, and now we swung so far the other way. It's like, what are we doing? So what are we doing with addiction? Why are we not getting it right? Because we never take everybody into consideration. We never look at the children and family members, and the community, and the local businesses. Why are we not looking? Why are we not bringing all of those people and saying, okay, can we all talk about addiction and see what everyone would like to say about it? Because we never do. We never ask those other people what they think and feel. They don't have a word at the table. They're not even invited. And can you imagine how they feel about that? That they have to live in these neighborhoods and they're not allowed to say a darn thing because it's considered now stigma to come forward and say, well, I'm not happy with addicted people in my neighborhood because they're doing these kinds of things. Oh, that's stigma to say that. Stigma has now become, you're not allowed to say anything about the behavior of addicted people because that would be considered stigmatizing addicted people. So stigma is actually, what it truly means is, let's not talk about the unacceptable behavior of having addicted people in your neighborhood or having them, their behavior that they're engaged in. I had one of my clients was living in a low-income place, supposed to take her granddaughter to the park and realizes, oh, she can't. One, there's needles in the sandbox, and there's a guy with half of his pants down, genitals showing, and she's got a 5-year-old with her, and she takes that 5-year-old home. She's out walking her dog, and she sees this guy cleaning up defecation on his lawn, and she goes, oh, I'm sorry. She said, did somebody not clean after their dog? And he says, no, it's not a dog. It's a human being that's defecated on his lawn. But that's okay. I don't understand where we're going. We've sort of slid to some sort of dystopian view of people that, what are we doing to help? If we are not helping people to get better and to have dignity, and we're saying, well, we'll provide drugs for people, but we won't help them get a better life, we won't help them raise their sort of ability to live a healthier life, but we're going to let them decay and fall into an inability to be amongst other people. Like if someone's unable to use a bathroom, I don't know if it's my relative, unable to use a toilet, and she's defecating around the house and stuff like that. When you're not in, sort of step in and then you get her into a respite place or a place that will take care of her, that's what I would think of. But we're not doing that with addicted people. We're leaving them out on the street, engaging in behaviors that look like somebody's seriously not well. So it's kind of frightening when I stop and see that. I don't know what to think about it. And so these are the things that I'm trying to raise. What are we doing? And when we looked at the safe supply, I don't know if anyone knows who Aaron Gunn is, but he's now an MP out west. But he released a video called "The Deadliest Scandal in Canadian History" to speak about the safe supply of Dilaudid, and that was actually most of that went into was diverted into to the illegal markets, because the people that got the safe supply, most of it went, they traded it. So most of it went to the illegal supply. 9% of it went to an illegal supply. And it was found in, when they did the drug bust, it was found in the organized crime. So like up to 30,000 pills in the London arrest was Dilaudid. And the RCMP were asked not to report that. London, Ontario finally reported it was in their bus. And they get up to 25 pills at a time at 8 milligram tablets. And when they stepped out of the pharmacy, and the pharmacy was Respect Pharmacy, Recovery Care, those two that were beside each other, and they step out and the dealer would trade it for fentanyl. Because again, you have to understand from an addict's point of view, I'm going to take the drug that's stronger because that's the one I want. And if I'm suicidal, as I tried to explain to you, which was very much part of my addiction and many parts of many people's addiction, I want the stronger drug. I don't want the Dilaudid. It's not going to do it for me. So I'm going to trade it for the drug that's stronger. And then those Dilaudins that ended up on the street were being sold to high school students and college students. And some of those kids died. They were sold $2 a pill, 8 milligram tablets. A person with cancer gets a 3 milligram tablet of Dilaudid compared to 8 milligrams. So there was a lot of questionable, problems with these drugs. And that's what you have to take a look at. It's very concerning when you see there's so much stuff on the table. Anyways, more than I could probably address. So I'm gonna just put this up if I can show this. One other share if I can, where I will show you. I did so. Oh, that's not what it's sort of. Sorry, that's not what I wanted to share. My apologies. That came up with. What I'd like to share is where is it? I've lost it. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. So I've lost it. Sorry. I would like to share. That's pretty odd. Eh? I have put out a book, and it's called Dealing Addiction. And it's how the Canadian government derailed addiction recovery. And what it does is it speaks to some of what I'm saying, because it's so much information, I can't give it to you all on the level of what happened. And also what happened in a lot of the addiction agencies themselves. Because, when I was trying to get anybody into recovery, it was like a lottery. You couldn't get them in. If you think people could just, a lot of the problems that we couldn't get people into, because it weren't being funded. They funded the harm reduction initiatives, but you couldn't get people into recovery. You couldn't get them in. There was always a gatekeeper or somebody in the agencies that wouldn't let the person in. I mean, I had everything from, I'd get the person all the way to the door of getting the interview for the treatment center, and they'd say, oh, well, they have to go to treatment first before they can go to treatment. And I'm not kidding you. That was one. Like, excuse me, what do you mean? And that would take 4 weeks to arrange that. And, they have to go to treatment before they go to, it was endless stuff like this. So you couldn't get people anywhere. And it was a total waste of time. And this went on and on and on, how the agencies themselves played gatekeeper and all sorts of nonsense went on. So you couldn't even get people into treatment. So the whole system itself was not functioning. And I think a lot of that was due to funding, because the funding was the government had a great deal of control over who got funding and who didn't. And so they're gonna direct people through their funding exactly where they want people to go. And the government itself was involved in the Dilaudid because they did all the funding for that program. They did funding for Pathways to Recovery, which funded Recovery Care and the Respect Pharmacy. That was them. And they were involved in the heroin companies that created the Dilaudid. So, and they were making millions, by the way, and those were government employees. So, that's what's behind it. So that's why that's being funded and recovery is not. And so what do you do? The people can recover. They don't need to be. And the other thing, it's important, just one other thing to say, that every time they give someone naloxone and they bring them back, they have brain damage because they died. So if someone's had say they've been revived, 10 times, from death from overdosing, that's 10 times they've had brain damage. So harm reduction, at what point are we not going to try and help them get well? And so I'll leave it like that. But if you have questions, but it's a bigger story than I can tell in this period of time.
Well, thank you, Karen, for such a powerful presentation. I found those images so touching, and I think having been a previous frontline worker supporting individuals, whether it was with substance use concerns, mental health concerns, they really resonated. So I really truly thank you for that. Someone's also echoing that in the chat, just saying an amazing conversation, and they could relate to the experiences you had. They say you were inspiring, sharing your story with others, as this can help in the healing journey. Trauma is so huge with addiction. Um, Another person has said, I've seen where you have to attend treatment to get into treatment. And then they ask, do you feel that the government encourages harm reduction because of the money, despite the ongoing addiction to methadone that often continues 15 to 20 years at a significant cost to individuals?
Well, I think the government was definitely making money on the heroin, on the lot, because that was yeah, they had heroin companies. They bought heroin companies. I mean, there's people, what are their names? The BC Center on Substance Abuse and Providence Healthcare were involved in the purchasing of heroin companies. Their names are Martin Schuttler, Perry Kendall, Evan Wood, and Mark Tyndall. These four people purchased heroin companies, and they were making in the millions of dollars on those on the Dilaudid. I mean, it's so bad to say that. It stirs, like, it just frightens me when people get involved in purchasing heroin companies to put out Dilaudid like that. It's like they're dealing. They're dealing Dilaudid. And then it ends up on the street for kids, like high school kids, and they died. Some of them died.
I think there's a lot of feedback in the chat for or feedback, sorry, is the wrong word, but a lot of
Yeah.
points and adding to what you're saying, Karen. Um, about harm reduction. Yeah, all really, really good comments here. Karen, I'm curious, as someone who's worked in addictions and trauma for so long as you have, we do have a lot of people on this call who are supporting individuals in their recovery journeys. What advice or what would you want them to know as individuals working and supporting this community?
I think that the real thing to know is people can recover. It is not an illness that you cannot recover from. You can recover from addiction, and you can recover from trauma. You know, there are people like, look at Bezel Vanderkolk, Bruce Perry. These are two I will name right off the top that are incredibly informed, intelligent trauma specialists that will tell you you've recovered from trauma, and they will tell you how you can. These are the guys. They're out doing trauma, and they're the guys, like, two mentors for me. Bruce Perry is the most human man out there in the world. In my opinion, he's my mentor, bar none. He is a human being, and will tell you how to be a human being in your work. I used to keep his picture on my wall to remind me how to be a human being. Be human first all the time. Be a human being. You fight for the life of your people. When they say force someone into treatment, it can never work. Why that won't work? Because you don't bring your heart to your job. And if you bring your heart to the person and you tell them what you're trying to do for them, when I worked in drug court, I would I told people why I wanted them to make it, because they were really worth it, and their lives were worth it, and why it was worth it. And I fought 100% for them and what their dreams were. Right in there with them. You got to be that person. Don't be in the job. If you're in a job because, well, there was nothing to be in the job for when I was in it, you thought you were going to be paid or recognized, forget it. Yeah, I was there for my heart. And you were there with that person telling them how much they were worth and never can make it. I fought on every front for my clients because there was nobody else who would ever care about them in the hospitals, everywhere. You just walked around and said, no, this person's worth it, and I'm going to fight for them until you see that they're worth it. And then they could make it. And I had amazing stories. I had things I did for people, and it touched me to this day. You know?
That's incredible. And I do think so many of us have had that experience of sometimes we're the first person to tell a client that you're the
Yeah,
first person to be their cheerleader and to be that person that knows that they're worth it and
yeah.
that they're worth fighting for. So Thank you, Karen, for sharing this experience and your experience. And I'm sure you've touched many lives as you have today. And this, we can see in the chat, just bringing your perspective to this conversation. Um, are there any questions for Karen or any final questions as we're coming to a close? Okay.
So then,
So, sorry, go
go
ahead.
check out Bruce Perry if you haven't. Like, I'm definitely it's Dr. Bruce Perry. If you've never looked him up, look him up. He was with Oprah Winfrey's last book doing What Happened to You. Not what's wrong with you, what happened to you. And amazing man. So if you really want to be inspired, and the other one is, of course, you have to know him if you know trauma, Bessel van der Kolk. Two incredible people. If you want to understand trauma, they're it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the
Oh, and reading your book, what's the title of your book? It's called Dealing Addiction,
Healing
right?
Addiction, How the Canadian Government Derailed Addiction Recovery. And it's on Amazon, by the way.
I'm putting it in the chat for everybody. Okay, so there's a question for you. How do you feel about the government introducing heart hubs? What do you think will be needed to make this a useful resource?
I'm not sure what the heart hubs are.
They're the homeless,
Oh,
sorry, everybody, I should have this known by now, homeless and addiction recovery treatment,
okay.
I believe, hubs. So the idea is that you'll have all the supports needed and it will be housing as well, but they are abstinent based,
Yeah.
is
Oh.
one of, yeah.
Well, we have to see. Have to see what they're actually doing, because they can say. I said that this stuff shows up, but what do they really do when they? It's one thing to say this. Are they really doing it? Because I don't believe what they say until I see it in action.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Well, if everybody can join me in thanking Karen for sharing her perspective, please use the round of applause button. Yeah, you've got all your emojis there.
There we are.
So you've been listening. Please also take a moment to fill in the survey for this session. You can click on the agenda on the virtual conference platform, choose the session that you're currently in. This is L1 or lunch session 1. Next to the join button, you will find the survey button. If you can take a couple minutes and do that for us, as this provides us insight for the next conference we plan. We also encourage you to take time to connect with your fellow participants and visit the poster and exhibitor halls, where you can view the poster presentations and connect with our exhibitors. Don't forget to add resources from our exhibitors to your personal swag bag. To build your own agenda by adding, you can also build your own agenda by adding sessions to your calendar by clicking add to my calendar. We would also appreciate, as said, if you take a few moments to complete the conference evaluation. You can access this evaluation by clicking on the evaluation icon. Your feedback is anonymous, appreciated, and will be used to plan future events, as mentioned. Thank you all, and thank you so much again, Karen.
Thank you so much.
Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, appreciate it.